idea, but I believe that cats are in a place that they won't come in here screaming.
Okay.
No dogs in here, no birds, no
Okay.
kids,
Nope.
but I promise nothing. Hi, everybody. I'm Mike. This is Kristin, and we're chatting about the stuffs and the things. So I admittedly have had a hard time producing this show over the last few days because things are burny and I'm emotional about it and sort of feel a bit out of control. And so we're going to talk about some of those things, and especially because I'm working on two pieces that have to do with lawyers not being good at systems level problems. We're not good at systemic injustices, and we tend to think very transactionally, and because that's our training. So I've been thinking about this stuff a lot, even before this crazy, hey, it's not about burning crosses on people's lawns, it's about systemic disproportionate results based on race. That's a problem. And we're also don't burn crosses on people's lawns. That's the pro tip for today. So, Kristen, what I want to do with you is talk a bit, and we can go down that road as much as you want, but I do want to make sure that we talk about outsourcing, what LawClerk does, and also a conference that you guys have coming up. So maybe I'll let you be the host for a second. Like, what do you want? Do you want to talk work stuff, or do you want to talk?
Well, first, I want to give you a little public pep talk because you sell yourself short sometimes. And I think you need to give yourself a little grace because you do so much to help so many lawyers in this community. You have built an incredible community. And so it's okay if you don't come on every night. And it's okay to feel your feelings and your emotions because unless you're not human, you're not feeling those lately. So give yourself some grace and know that you are greatly appreciated by everyone who does tune in when you're able to do this.
I appreciate that. And also, I want a chocolate cake. Just on a...
All to yourself.
It's related, but not directly. No, I appreciate that. And I've talked about this. This was, again, true before the riots. And with COVID, I've talked about how lawyers, we're sort of expected to be the adults in the room for a lot of people. And I was talking to some people on Twitter about this thing of we're not very well trained in systems, and in sort of systemic injustices. And, they were like, well, our job is this thing. Like, we do this thing. And I was like, but we're the point of contact for law, for most people. So
Yeah.
it is true to say, like, the legislature has more power over X, or the courts have more power over Y, or the bars have more power over Z, or law schools, or whatever. But I feel like there's a level of activism that lawyers can be engaged in that we're not engaged in part out of that being the adult in the room, right? I feel like we think we're supposed to say the right things, but we're not quite sure what to do, if that makes sense.
100%. 100%. I've seen so many posts in different Facebook communities that I'm lucky to be a part of about I'm a lawyer and I don't know what to do. And so we can talk about that tonight. But I've also heard some people in one Slack channel that I'm in today, this guy was getting grief because he's been very kind in giving his time to answering the phone and giving consults to people that kind of just need to talk through things, even though they don't have like a case you would go file. But like, we're attorneys and counselors at law. And I think a lot of people are putting on their counselor hat a lot more right now to lend advice, be a friend, be someone with hopefully a reasonable voice to bounce things off of. And if I just hats off to anybody who's able and willing to donate their time to have those conversations with folks right now.
Well, I do want to talk about being bad allies because I feel like that sometimes. And I want to share, you had pointed out, both of us have a friend, Kim Bennett, and she, I I was talking to a friend of mine, and she is black, and she was saying, like, I really have unplugged from the news and stuff. And I said, I feel kind of bad about that because I have that ability to say, oh, I'm tired of this. I'm just going to unplug and not do the, deal with this stuff. But we do have the ability to engage, and Kim was nice enough to forward this. She got it from somebody else.
Yeah, it's really cool.
Kertisha Riley. And it's a 30-day racial justice challenge. And the idea is that, hey, white people, stop turning to the random black person that you have not talked to in 3 months and saying, tell me, I mean, I keep hearing all this, like, we should be listening more, but please do not go. There are not a whole bunch of black people who want to give you Race Relations 101 right now, so please do some homework. And I thought this bit from Kim was really good for giving you some homework, giving you some things to do to just be a better ally. So do you have this in front of you, this racial justice challenge?
I do, yeah. Mm-hmm.
So why don't you talk about some of those things for a second while I go put the image of it in the thread real quick.
Oh, fantastic. So these it's 30 days, which obviously we're on June 2. So you could do June, day 1 and 2 right off the gate to get started. And these are 30 really actionable, thought-provoking steps that you could take to hopefully become a better ally, like Michael was saying. I think it's really something that if you're committed to this and wanting to be a better friend to our friends of color in our community, like these are things you can and should do. So step 1, establish your why. I think I'm a big fan of don't just think it through, but get a notepad and commit to making this your small notepad for this month-long challenge and actually write it down. There's a big difference between thinking something, saying it out loud versus writing it. Putting pen to paper makes it kind of come to life in a different way. Step 2, find an accountability partner. I think that's really interesting. Step 3, day 3, revisit your experiences around race and privilege. That one I think should be about a whole month itself, but this is a really great piece that came out on social media. So big thanks to Kim for sharing it and giving us all this challenge to do better, because I love the video that came out of, have you seen this one, the man, and he's angry, he's agitated, but he was making a fantastic point. He was talking to this young boy, 16, and he told this 16-year-old, he said, look, I'm angry at 31, this guy's angry at 46. You got to find a better way now, or you're going to be angry at 31 and 46. Yeah. And that's really the thing that I've been trying to harp on to my family, my kids, is that we got to find a better way. And what's our little part of that? We're all a part of it.
Yeah, and if I can, and I think this is me going to do a not subtle pivot to LawClerk, I think. One of the things that I have pushed for a long time that I think is really coming to light right now is that our clients, they're not simple people living in simple worlds. These are complex individuals dealing with a very complex set of issues. And because of our role, if we really want to be better advocates, we need to start seeing people as these in complexity and being able to manage that. And if I could give a piece of advice from the systems thinking world, it is all the time, if you see a bunch of pieces of a system, including law firms and the justice system, if you see that as dysfunctional, your inclination is to try to optimize your piece of the system. You see this with people who are going to get funded, their nonprofits going to get funding and they deal with one bit of homelessness or whatever, and they feel like it's a win if they go to the conference and walk out with some funding. They get more for their piece. When really in systems thinking, what gets the biggest results is the relationships. It's the connection between the different people who are all doing their thing that they think is important. So my pivot to LawClerk is stop thinking that you can do everything by yourself. Stop thinking that you have to. It's not necessary. It's not helpful. It's not even true. You cannot do it. It's going to kill you, and it's not delivering for clients. So stop doing it. ... LawClerk. You see what I did there? That's pretty epic.
One of the most sophisticated pivots I've experienced, Michael. So
I don't play. But yeah, I mean, this idea I had put into Twitter that I think lawyers need to be trained on more systemic kind of thinking. And multiple lawyers were like, actually, the law is not very good for dealing with systemic issues. We need legislators for that, which I think is funny that legislators aren't the law. But, that we as lawyers don't have a role in dealing with these systemic issues. And I feel like if you could start by just seeing how your firm fits in your client's bigger picture, and you can figure out how to serve your client's need by connecting with other people, you're going to start building the communities that can deliver substantive justice for people in your community, right? Don't just post Facebook memes. Go connect with some people.
Absolutely.
That was a bit of a rant. I don't know that there was a question in there about...
No, the thing I would build off of that comment, though, would be that, the thing about LawClerk that I love is that it's a tool for the small guys. It's a great tool for solo attorneys, small firms, that can allow you to tap into the expertise or the manpower that you need from time to time to really amp up your game and provide the level of service you want to provide for your service, even if it is a small client that you're on a limited engagement for a small amount of money, and so it can be a game changer on a lot of levels that way, to provide a broad array of people's services that maybe otherwise couldn't access them.
Yeah, I wanted to share with people just something I was watching today. This is a guy wrote a book. David Peter Stroh is the guy's name. He wrote a book called Systems Thinking for Social Change. And again, you start applying blank thinking. It makes it sound sexy and also super nerdy, so no one will ever touch it. But just watch the video. It's pretty simple. I feel like if there's a message that can get across to people, is that if you start to see you in the bigger picture, you'll start to see other people's bigger pictures too. But so tell me, LawClerk it's an interesting moment for what LawClerk does, because you have lawyers who don't want to hire people full time right now because things are so crazy. And so you want to keep your expenses variable. And you also have some lawyers who are like, I just need some more work. Talk to me about what LawClerk is doing for those two groups.
Well, luckily, we're here to help connect them in a way that really was never possible before without this type of technology. I mean, historically, if someone was busy with a big appellate case and they wanted someone to draft that brief, they would reach out to other lawyers in their local community through their network, maybe their law school alumni network, to try to find someone. And if they couldn't find someone available, then they would just grind it out until 4 a.m, night after night, until it was done. And so thanks to this technology, we're able to connect lawyers all over the country in a way that really has never been possible before. And we've seen an increased demand, which is really exciting. So we truly hope that we're helping lawyers on both sides of the equation get through this time, whether, like you said, you're the lawyer who is hesitant to hire because there's so much uncertainty right now, or you're the lawyer who's maybe finding yourself suddenly furloughed or not as busy as you would like to be, and you have some time that you could lend to other attorneys, then fantastic. We want you to be a part of this. We want to connect you. And in a lot of ways, we were built for just the situation. We didn't build it for this, but it definitely is helping a lot of lawyers right now.
Pretend it was on purpose. Nobody knows. There's no notes they can go back to. I again, just expanding on a bit of what we talked about earlier, I'm thinking about how I, as a business owner, as a designer of my firm, how I decide what's local, what's internal, and what I can connect with others to get done. And maybe that distinction doesn't make a lot of sense. But for example, I, as a family lawyer, I would have clients who needed therapy, right? This was a common thing. And so figuring out some way to build a relationship, and I shared this earlier, Carolyn Elephant did a presentation on this last week. I encourage people to go watch. But how to work with other people in your local community to be able to deliver local services. But then, like you mentioned, when you're looking for, I need to improve my thinking on something, or my process on something, or my research on something, get that from wherever the freak, right? And LawClerk allows you to go build that way. That's right. So I'm thinking about that distinction between local and connected, if that makes sense.
Absolutely. And the local versus, outreach connected can be a limited part of a case. One of my favorite stories was we had a user early on who is a really well-known nationally constitutional law criminal defense attorney. He's been practicing, he's in his 70s now, so he's been practicing a lot of years. He and his team, who they've worked together for decades, had this appeal that they were, or a writ. I'm not a litigation attorney. I'm an estate planner, so I'm going to give that disclaimer. But they had a writ they were working on to the U.S. Supreme Court on a really minute issue related to evidence in a criminal case. They had this whole beautiful writ brief, but they had this one small part of it that they needed help with. And through our service, they were able to connect with a man in a different state, totally different area, who happened to have researched this, written on it extensively in different law journals. And he came in and helped them further research it, helped write that one part of the brief, which boosted the whole thing. And I think it's just a cool story of how one of the many examples of how we've connected people.
Yeah, I mean, I'm a nerd for this all day. I just find it so fascinating that we have this supposition that, like, nowhere else in the economy does one person do everything. It's really odd. But anyway,
Yeah.
in terms of getting practical, I did want to share with people, you guys have an event coming up. It's the age of virtual events because who the freak can see each other? But I'm going to scroll down. I had shared this in a session the other day, but I'm going to sort of scroll down to some of the topics, new normal stuff, using LinkedIn, podcasts, subscription practice, outside general counsel, national practice working remotely, YouTube, really? I mean, I'm gorgeous on film, so that was obvious. But yeah, a lot of good speakers and a lot of good topics. What drove you guys to create a virtual event?
Well, obviously, we've been to a few live events the past few years as we've been trying to grow our company, get the word out, and we've met some really cool people. And so this is us kind of bringing together some of our absolute favorites in the industry, people that maybe don't show up regularly in the speaking circuit. Like you were just there on Heather Hubbard. I got to say, Heather's one of my all-time favorite lawyers ever. I adore her. She's been a mentor to me for years, as she has been for thousands of lawyers who already know her. But she really came and brought the fire with her piece on how to shift your business strategy, how to pivot right now. We just actually revised our agenda for the day. She's going to be the second speaker of the day, and you don't want to miss that. But all of these people were so gracious when we went to them and told them what we wanted to do. They spoke no charge. We're not charging attendees for the event. I want to give a big thanks to our sponsors who helped make that possible, our partners and our friends at Clio, at LawPay, of course, GNGF, Mark Homer, and Time Miner, which if you don't know about Time Miner, you want to talk about geeking out, like let's talk about that. But so we really appreciate the sponsors making it free for our attendees. And it's this Friday. You know what? It's been a rough year. A really rough week. If you make it to Friday, maybe let yourself, cut out of lawyer work, and do this business type of work. Get some snacks. It's a half a day event. If you're on the East Coast, it'll be in the afternoon. If you're on the West Coast, it'll be in the morning. And just join us for the conversations. And we hope it'll be thought provoking and maybe help you get a new sense of clarity in where you want to take your practice moving forward.
Well, good. And for all of you Lawyer Forward watchers, it's totally free. I mean, it's free for everybody, but for you particularly,
it's extra free for you.
Super free for you. So make sure to be there. Well, Kristin, I appreciate you. We're all, what the hell are we doing? We're all sort of figuring it out as we go. This is all going exactly as according to plan. So I appreciate you hanging out with us. If people want to follow up with you, if they've got questions about outsourcing, and you talk a lot about the ethics of it and the process of it, and of course the event, what's the best way to get in touch with you?
Well, you can connect with me here on Facebook. It's a great place. I will warn you that my Facebook is mainly where I brag about my kids, though. So if you want to,
which is what Facebook was for, people, not for your political opinions.
I started messaging people when random lawyers that either I haven't met yet or whatever connect with me. I'm like, well, that's fine, but I'm just going to have I don't want to talk about work stuff here because this is my family place. But if you want to know more about outsourcing and how to get that help that you need and that you deserve, we've got a great guide on our webpage, lawclerk.legal. It's up in the header right now. You can see our ultimate guide to outsourcing. It was written by my awesome business partner, Talitha Gray-Kozlowski. It's 42 pages of just really good stuff. So if you want to take a deep dive into this to figure out how you want to shift and pivot for this new normal, that's going to be a great tool for you to help figure that out.
We've said new normal at least 3 times. That's how you know this is a legit show.
You need to get a bell. Get a bell every time somebody says it.
Thank you, Kristin. You guys have a good night. We will see you tomorrow. I think we're talking to Guy Sakalakis tomorrow. He of the gorgeous dimples. We're just going to have a session where we compare Guy's dimples and Mark's dimples. Like, we're going to have side-by-side pictures to see whose are better. They're all adorable.
Don't want to miss that.
Yeah. Thanks for hanging out, Kristin. You all have a good night. I'll see you tomorrow.
You too. Thank you. Bye now.